I also want to make sure that we're using in30.co as our
No, I don't know
short
if we can
URL.
get that. Well, we'll
I
look at it
have
later,
that.
but
I've been paying. I paid. I think it's like $49 a year for that shit.
oh, you just cursed. Okay, we're
Okay,
live.
ready? All right. So everyone, fingers on the record button. This takes me
Yes.
back. All right. Three. Paul, you ready too?
Yep.
All right. Three, two, one. Hello, Internet. This is In 30, the tech podcast that takes roughly 30 minutes a week to do. Han, you wanted to describe the change in format, so we're going to begin with that right away as I compose the nature of what this show is going to be.
Well, Justin, Paul, Tom, and I were all talking through different messaging platforms, whatever, and we decided to, instead of bring you a weekly show, 2 shows a week, where we're talking about whatever we can scrape from the bottom of the barrel, we decided that quality over quantity. So instead of having blank shows where we're just sitting there reading the news story to you, if we don't have anything, we're not going to record. And just we rather save your time, save everything. And I feel like that's going to be better than just putting out a show every week. So we figure we will do In 30 on one week and Insecurity on the other week. And if we have it and we can do 2 shows a week, then more power to us. If not, we're going to go every other week, but we promise to bring you better quality audio and better quality content.
Only better quality audio. That's as far as the promise extends. So that we can do. The rest of it is kind of an impossibility. That being said, okay, so let's do these introductions. I'm Justin Freed of justinfreed.com, which you can see in my lower third if you're watching the Google Hangouts. You just heard from Haim Cohen of HaimTime.com, and there is Paul N. Shapiro of SearchWilderness.com. He's in Boston, so wish him luck with the snow. Hi, Paul.
Hi, everyone.
So we're going to be talking about something that is not directly related to technology, but is certainly indirectly related to technology, the world of television, and the shakeup that the media has been all over this week with Brian Williams, and they've similarly been interested in the announced eventual departure of Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. So as a juxtaposition between the two dudes, one is I don't think Brian Williams will be back, but they're leaving on very different terms. But it's an interesting way to look at how the consumption of news has changed over the years and which platform is most important. So Haim, you seemed into this topic. Where do you stand on this?
Well, can I ask the two of you the first question? Which is bigger news, Brian Williams leaving, or forgetful memory, or misremembering, or Jon Stewart leaving?
Well, I mean, I think the answer is very easy. The Jon Stewart has created a legacy. He could have left 2 years ago, and his legacy would have been really important. I think he's doing it at a great time. It had to happen sometime. He's not going to Jay Leno us and overdo it. It's just it had to happen, so it's happening now. The more important thing is that Brian Williams is a screw up, and I think that when you piece together all of the exaggerations, it's more than a pattern. It's like it is a pathological problem of his, and he looks like an asshole. And NBC News similarly does. And I'm surprised, frankly, that the counter networks like Fox have not been harder on them. But I think they haven't been only because they're scared that if someone really looked into what they had said, during their entire career, they'd be in the same position he's in.
Well, you didn't answer the question.
Brian Williams is bigger news then.
Okay, Paul?
I would agree with that.
Really? Because
Yeah.
when was the last time that any of you watched nightly news?
I watch it when Jimmy Fallon does that thing where he mashes up all of the syllables to make Brian Williams like sing a song, like he did with.
So
like,
you
the
haven't
Sugar
watched
Gang.
it. You haven't watched it directly in 6 months?
No, far longer than that.
I watch nightly news more often than I watch Jon Stewart.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're getting back from work. First of all, 6:30 to me is a little bit early to be like completely done with work for the day. But you're getting home, Paul, and you're like flipping on regular broadcast television or cable TV, and you're tuning to Channel 4, whatever it is in Boston, single-digit network, and watching Brian Williams.
More often than I'm watching Jon Stewart.
But how many times a week, for instance?
Probably happens once a week.
I find it more interesting the fact that he does that with his TiVo that RCN gave him than doing anything else. I mean,
that's not the only thing I'm doing.
Okay, how many Daily Show clips do you watch throughout the week?
On average, 0.
Really? Okay. First of all, I'll say this. Between Slate.com and Mother Jones and Mediaite and The Atlantic, they seem like 1/3 of what they do is just post clips of what Stewart has already said. I don't know.
Now you said so much left-wing nonsense in that following 5 sentences. You have to redeem yourself with some O'Reilly.
Okay, I
Are you in the no spin zone at least?
I will say this, and I think I said it on In 30 before. Whenever I watch broadcast news, it's always Fox because, and I think I've said this before. It goes back to that famous scene in Howard Stern's Private Parts where the guy that doesn't like him at WANBC is getting the reports on his listeners, and they say that people who like Stern listen for an hour, and people who hate him listen for 2 hours. And when I listen to Fox, it is just to get that visceral, oh, I can't believe you're saying that reaction. I like that. I don't watch.
Well, according to Fox News or the right-wing commentary, the reason Jon Stewart is leaving is because his ratings are taking such a hit that that it's better for him to go on top.
Oh, okay.
So just make sure you throw that in there.
Are you trying to say that the right-wing media has been harder on Jon Stewart than on Brian Williams?
Well, the problem, I don't know. I think you're right in both senses that Brian Williams, they don't want to go after Brian Williams because didn't Fox News a week ago have some gaffe that they had to apologize for?
You mean? Yes, I think I remember what you're talking about. That
it was with the Paris market shooting. So I mean, I think you're right. I think that no one really wants to go after him because it was a self-inflicted suspension. It was this. It wasn't on the news. It was in a town hall at some college campus. So it wasn't like he was reporting.
It was a repeated retelling of a story that it didn't make him look like a hero per se, because it's an easy thing to say that it made him. He didn't fight off insurgents in Iraq. He didn't say that he rescued people from the helicopter. He just increased his proximity to a death-defying event. And he did the same thing, though, while he was reporting, apparently, in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. He said he saw a body float by. Now, that's a point of fact, whether or not that happened, and that goes into the public mind, and it also goes on the record. So if you say that you're in the French Quarter and you see a body float by, you're reporting effectively that there's enough water in the French Quarter for that to happen, that there were enough dead bodies for that to happen, and apparently neither of those things were true. So if this were a Wikipedia article, we would hope that someone would go in and edit that part out, right?
Well, yeah. So again, I mean, look,
I got Paul in here on whether or not he cares about. I mean, Paul, if you heard all this stuff from Brian Williams, and apparently there literally is a puppy story that he said he saved a puppy at one point. But when you hear all this stuff, I mean, does it affect his ability to convey the news to you? I mean, how do you feel? Because you've watched him more than Heimer or I have.
I don't think very highly of television news in general. So, in that respect, it doesn't. I don't care that much.
It's true. The bar is so low that he's good enough.
Right. At least I know that there's something happening in New Orleans. At least I know there's something happening.
Well, hold on. Look,
He did go. We can't take that away from him.
Look, I got it. I mean, you have Don Lemon driving around in the Blizzard Mobile?
Yes.
After hours and this and that and
endangering people's lives to on
CNN and everything else. But again, it's okay. So where do we go from here? Nightly news.
Let's go back, Paul. When you don't have a high regard for television news, isn't the nightly news 5 or 6 or 7 minutes of hard news, or maybe even less than that, and then a lot of fluff, and then a lot of lead-ins to tease interviews that they're going to do at another time?
Yeah, but I mean, what is hard news nowadays anyway?
Well, it is focusing on a more in-depth level on what's going on in Ukraine, rather than just giving us a tally of bodies, or they love images of rockets being fired. It's doing some type of analysis.
Sure, but then you get where things are mixed in with the latest whatever whoever's on trial and like other crap. I don't really care about.
See, here's the sad part. ESPN does more hard-hitting news than the nightly news.
What do you
And
mean?
yes, I mean, they go more in depth on their sports
But
stories.
but the range of topics is much more narrow and inherently less important. I mean, the
Oh,
sports.
I got that. No, I got that. But I'm saying,
Geopolitics.
I feel smarter after watching ESPN and whatever I'm listening to. Bob Lee talking about the immigration problem with Cuban athletes coming to play baseball.
I mean, that's an interesting angle on a huge geopolitical issue. But the point, what you're getting at is that it's the 30 minutes is not enough for Brian Williams. But Jon Stewart and his team of, I always say, like 500 writers put it very well that finally someone was taken to task by the media, by like the public at large, for lying about the Iraq War. And of course, it was Brian Williams. It wasn't Dick Cheney. It wasn't Condoleezza Rice. It was not former President George Bush. The guy that got hit for lying about the Iraq War is Brian Williams. I mean, that sums up the hypocrisy overall. So when you look at Stewart, he's the guy that gets to give that insight, and he's announcing that he's stepping down. Is there a sliver of a chance that he's going to show up on NBC?
Who's Comedy Central owned by?
No.
It's a Viacom company.
Well, I got that. Who is Viacom? Just Viacom?
Viacom is the parent company. Yeah.
Look, I would love that.
CBS, right?
Who is the broadcast network that Viacom owns? I can't say off the top of my head.
Well, the issue is, look, I think my thing yesterday to somebody is Jon Stewart did the documentary last year, and I think he got hit with the documentary bug. He wants to do something more than doing what he's doing now. And
was it a full-out documentary? I have not seen it. What is it called? It's a Red Clover. What is it called?
I cannot remember for the life of me. And
it's about the reporter in Iran who was targeted by the government, right?
Yeah, and then he was free, and then everything. Yeah, but it was hard-hitting. It was an actual news story, and I think that he wants to do that. Look, I don't know. Maybe he's 55, or he's in his early 50s.
Yeah,
he's been doing it for 17 years, and he said, you know what? I have enough money. I'm just going to really just spend time with my family, and they're going to wheel me out when they want a hard-hitting interview. They're going to Barbara Walters him, or he's going to Barbara Walters himself.
I mean, talk about credibility, right? So let's just say before Brian Williams was forced to step down, and I don't know if he'll be back. No, I guess maybe someone on NBC does. But Paul, do you think that Brian Williams' credibility was comparable to Stewart's before this all went down, higher, lower, or what?
It was probably about comparable. I feel like you probably would have gotten better quality news listening to Jon Stewart, to be perfectly honest. But in terms of like raw credibility, it was probably about the same.
When we put it this way, do you think that the nightly news ever covered a story that was really important that the Daily Show missed? I bet you the opposite happens more. That's my like anecdotal.
No, I think so too. That's why I said I think probably the quality of like Jon Stewart is probably generally better.
Well, let me ask you this: let's take any one of the John Oliver segments, the 10-minute segments that he does about whatever it is. Are those is he doing a great job on those? Does he have credibility, or is he just reading what the writers wrote and people are saying that's very hard hitting?
Well, so in both cases, with Oliver and with Stewart, they're in the enviable position where they never have to do new reporting, right? They're never the ones that are tasked with going to the scene. On the Daily Show, they put people in front of a blue screen at the best, unless they're doing funny interviews out, in the world. So they always get to be. They can start off by being above the news coverage because everyone else has done that kind of like first level stuff. That being said, the nightly news and similar programs are still responsible for doing analysis on top of that. But I think that the nightly news has to compete for like the entertainment, people's like kind of like entertainment, or it's like to be entertaining. they can't win against Oliver and Stewart because they both want to be entertaining. And the only way the nightly news can be entertaining is by like flashy graphics and more bombs and more feel-good stories. Stewart and Oliver don't have to be on the scene, so they can just they get to analyze it in a funny way and get the information across, and they don't have that burden of being on the scene.
When the nightly news, when it was 60 Minutes, when it was 2020, when it was the nightly news, it was what was Walter Cronkite's show?
It was on CBS. It was whatever. I mean,
all those when they were talking about something that's been harped to death, and they did something that was completely new. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I really did, and I thought they were done really well. And then I just stopped caring because some life came in the way, and I didn't care enough.
I don't understand. What are you saying that you enjoyed?
Well, when they do the news and they're just taking one aspect and expanding on it for 30 minutes.
So that's not the nightly news, though. That's something more like 60 Minutes, right? Or a news magazine show, or 2020, or
even when it wasn't wartime, basically, and it wasn't every day with a new Iraq thing or an ISIS thing or a terroristic thing, and they went something, they found some sort of newsy type thing. It was generally well done.
I don't know.
Maybe we are talking about two different things.
I mean, like the 30-minute, almost every day format, it requires a certain amount of jumping around, right? I mean.
Well, anyway, we're halfway through, and the tech aspect of the show tonight that I really wanted to talk about is okay. From what I hear, is nightly news is not in first place, but it's not doing well. It's Brian Williams is gone. They have a chance now to revamp this for somebody like, I guess, Justin and I to watch. I was going to say Paul, but apparently Paul watches it. What would we do differently? How would you get this how would you get the news to this generation if you had this half-an-hour time slot?
No, I see it as putting themselves as a counter to the CNN style of 20 seconds of coverage over and over and over again, repeated at like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minute intervals. I mean, that's what it seems like they do on CNN, right? I mean, it's the same story.
Yeah.
So it is longer term coverage. I mean, Paul, what would you want to see? I mean, what would make you watch 2 days a week instead of one? I mean, do you?
I think it's if I actually cared about what I was listening to, like if all the news was actually important, and it was the quality was there. I get higher quality stuff like when I drive home and I'm listening to NPR, or when I read the news on the internet.
See, I think NPR is they uniformly kind of beat the television news, and it's something about listening to it and not having to do the graphics or the video alongside it that makes it feel better, or maybe they just do a better job because they know they don't have that. They can't waste any time by showing you things. I mean,
so if we took
too.
Jon Stewart's writers and said don't make jokes, that would get people to watch?
I don't think so. I think the answer is no.
So it has to be comedy. What? You know what? Maybe a comedic valued show.
Well, if they could put Daily Show on a different network. But Paul, I'm just interested. How many times have you gone to work and one of your colleagues has said, "Oh, did you see Brian Williams last night talk about blah blah blah"?
That's never happened.
Right. I think it's just like.
Well, let me go with this one. How many of you heard about the news report that Samsung is spying on you?
With the televisions listening all the time. I mean, I can't say where I first saw it, but certainly.
Did you see it on TV? Did you hear about it? Or did you read it?
I think at Facebook newsfeed or something.
Okay, well, it was on one news station, and apparently it was so sensationalized that everyone picked it up, and everyone was talking about it on Monday or Tuesday.
Well, what, are you trying to defend Samsung here? You're saying that the mainstream media overdid it?
Whatever the news article was, it was whether how it was written or it was produced or whatever it was, it got a lot of people talking. And more so than anything else.
And is your point that
the media... That's how these things work.
What?
That's how these things work. You know,
so, I mean,
one person gets it, and then everyone like, oh, this is interesting, and they pick it up.
Or the other one also this week is how your car idling in your driveway is a boon for car thieves. That was the other story I heard from at least 10 different people. Well,
And then you know what? You'll hear these things again, like
next
like
year.
Of
months
course.
later.
You're going to hear the
You
same
know,
thing, of
But Han,
course.
what is your point?
And
here?
then and if you look at Reddit, you know, like some ridiculous amount of things that end up on the front page of Reddit reappear on the front page of Reddit, like
Oh no,
months later.
Drew. I mean, when we have Drew on, I mean, he very famously talks about how they're running out of the news and they're just rehashing stories. But I don't know what
Curtis of Fark. I guess he has said something similar to that. Yeah.
I mean.
But Han, your point is that the nightly news, or that like the demographic that the nightly news goes after, and that other people go after, is incentivized to sensationalize stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, the other ones, the 11 o'clock news, but the nightly news, I think, was just trying. Here's our chance to be
relevant,
and and the problem is that nobody watches the nightly news at the nightly news time except for Paul and whatever the other 1.5 million.
I once in a while have watched it. Very.
Paul's embarrassed. It's like
I'm not embarrassed.
It's like people that have a Microsoft Surface, but they don't want to say so.
Look, I watch CNN.
It's incorrect to say that I watch it.
I watch CNN from 5 to 6 o'clock every night, only because I get home with the baby around 5, and then until my wife gets home, I need to do something. And
an hour of CNN is like 3 minutes of content.
I got that. So I've heard. But that's
you're
just
better off putting on last night's Daily Show, and then the Colbert Report, I guess, is off the air now, and then putting those on in succession. I mean, do that.
Well, the
I would love
to watch it with my wife. I have to watch it with my wife, so then I have to watch it again.
Okay.
So I have to find something, and I started with Homeland. I got through the first season, so it's a laziness thing because I have to chase after the baby. So I'm pausing 1,000,000 times. With either ESPN or CNN, it's easy. It's just let it go.
Right, exactly, because Walt Blitzer will repeat himself 60 times, and
then at the end of every
Anderson Cooper will repeat what he said. Yeah.
At the end of the Situation Room, he goes, "Don't miss anything. DVR our show."
Does he say that? I didn't know that.
At the end of at the end of the broadcast, at 7 o'clock, he goes, "DVR our show."
Let me make an aside here, because I think that the term breaking news is really, really overused by CNN, because it's seldom actually happening as they're saying it's happening, which is to me what breaking news means. But just like, have you guys noticed how often The Verge uses the word "finally"?
Yeah.
In its headlines? I would just like to say that is the internet equivalent of, I think, breaking news. Like, every time Google does something kind of cool, they say, "Oh, finally, Google Translate works for anything in the real world." Really, finally? I don't know. Okay.
Well, again, we're trying. We're wasting time here, but I'm trying to figure out, what do we fill that slot with?
That's what you want to know?
Yeah.
It's going to be Lester Holt. Maybe he's 3/4 black. Maybe he's 100% black. I don't know. But it's the black Brian Williams. I don't know what else you want me to say.
But you have a chance to do something great, and we're going to refill it with the status quo because that's what we decided is the right thing.
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of not being able to compete for other demographics, so they want to stick with what they know.
So Katie Couric is doing 20-second Snapchat videos, if you want. I mean, I don't know how well that's going to take off.
I don't know. I think Katie Couric just sold her soul to the devil like 10 or 12 years ago, and now so she's owed like these network TV programs when she could probably, disappear. No one would really care.
Well, I don't think she wants to disappear, but the idea is you have a half an hour to do something good, and if that's making a comedic show, I don't know if you're allowed. I guess you're allowed to do it. It's not Jon Stewart.
So everyone knows that we get our news much differently than we used to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and of course longer than that. And the big difference is that there are a million ways to get it. But the thing that's the same is that in order to you want the source is important, and even the person delivering it from that source is important. So credibility still means something. So the personality means something. So it's the human element of it still rises to the surface. It's about finding the right person.
Maybe getting James Earl Jones to retweets. CNN perfected that, and then someone said we don't want to do it. But you know what? That may not be a bad idea.
Paul, is it just me, or Haim is referring to the fact that James Earl Jones says that this is CNN thing? Isn't that what he's getting at? Is that what he's saying?
No, I remember there was a Sprint commercial where him and the other guy were reading two teenage males' tweets on a Friday night saying, "What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Whatever."
I see. So when to me, I don't watch The Daily Show on Comedy Central hardly ever, but I've seen a good deal of clips. And Paul, I'm frankly surprised to hear that over the course of the week you watch 0 clips. Haim, get in here. How often do you find yourself clicking on Daily Show links?
Well, we record. Well, we watch the Daily Show. We DVR and we watch it the next day. So I think we see 85%. We don't watch the interview. We just watch the first 20 minutes.
Okay, so you watch the monologue and then the correspondent pieces.
Yeah.
And you don't get the moment of zen then.
I generally don't.
But Paul, let me revisit this, Paul. You're saying that you don't see people sharing Stewart saying stuff, and you don't.
No.
No.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying on average, I'm not watching it
at all.
The average week, and it's not a media that I personally enjoy all that much, and that's part of it.
I think Stewart has risen to be the moral authority, and he's away from the fray, and because he doesn't have to do some of the hard stuff, he can do some of the really hard stuff, and he's really important. So I'm surprised, Paul, that you don't listen to him. Does that mean you're a Colbert fan, or you just don't like you don't like funny news?
I guess I could do without the satire.
Okay.
Look, I saw the Larry Wilmore show.
You're talking about Steve Wilkos, the guy that used to be Jerry Springer's bodyguard? What are you talking about?
No, the correspondent from Jon Stewart that took over for Colbert.
Okay, I don't even know who that is.
Black News Tonight the Nightly Show.
I don't even know what it's called. Okay.
And I am not a fan. It's trying too hard and it's failing. But maybe I have to give it 6 months and he'll get into his groove. But whatever it was, I was not happy with it.
Now, I think that Stewart could not have maintained his popularity as long as he has, if not for Comedy Central's embracing internet video and making it really accessible to a whole bunch of people that have. I think there are some people, especially people in college. I mean, do they watch TV at all? I think it's all on ComedyCentral.com, cc.com, which is a pretty cool domain name. That's smart. That works. I don't know if NBC gets it the way Comedy Central does, and their stuff is not as funny. But I mean, that is part of what has made Stewart resonate, because everyone can see him all the time. If you wanted to see Brian Williams, I don't know.
Maybe there's your answer. Maybe they should put the the nightly news segments on.
Yeah, but no one would want to share it.
That's the thing, right? I mean, what would Williams have to do?
They're 8 minutes, right? Each block is 8 minutes.
Yeah, but Paul's point. Paul, expand on your point. I mean, what is the shareability of the nightly news versus the Daily Show?
There's it's bland comparatively. There's no incentive to share it.
But if they did something that's more hard hitting, I mean, yeah, you're not going to share. Okay, what happened? You're not going to be in a CNN position where you're rehashing the news. But if you can do a show in half an hour with 3 8-minute time blocks. Yeah, you're not going to get the shareability that Jon Stewart has, but I think any shareability would be better than none.
I would like to get back to NPR for. I mean, we're very short on time now.
90 seconds.
Okay, so we'll have to leave the NPR thing for next week. But if we bottom line it, okay, let's make some predictions about where Brian Williams and Stewart will be in a year. Okay, I don't think that Brian Williams is coming back to the full anchor desk. And I think that Stewart is going to stay off TV for a good long time, and I agree with you, Haim. He's going to be doing feature-length stuff, and he's going to get less funny over time until he gets to kind of come back as the grandpa of funny news.
I don't know I think Brian Williams ends up back at NBC in the back room somewhere, EP or whatever it is. But I think Jon Stewart takes some time off, does some documentaries, and then they hire him to do the hard-hitting interviews. And he does like 3 or 4 every year.
All right, Paul, this is the O'Reilly Factor. This is the no-spin zone. You get the last word.
He's done. Brian Williams is done. We're not going to see him for years, and when he comes back, if he comes back, no one's going to care.
All right, and Stewart?
Stewart's going to make documentaries or movies or whatever. He's going to be very
Is he going to
successful.
make documentaries with Adam Sandler, or is he going to make hard-hitting documentaries? Is he going to be in Grown Up 6?
You mean Big Daddy 6, Herm?
No, Grown Up 6,
know
The Search for Grandkids. I mean,
Okay, I don't even know what that is.
He's going to have a series on Snapchat.
okay, well, that's time's up.
All right, so this has been episode something of In 30. Thank you for listening. You can share us along with the latest snarky clip from The Daily Show. Thanks.
Bye.